What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Super excited. We've got a very cool guest. I'm so pumped to hear his story. I'm actually fascinated by what he does and how he lives his life. So stay tuned, sit back, relax, and tune in. He is an author. He is a steadfast volunteer, and he's also a nomad. Please welcome Dan Clouser to the show. Dan, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I am too. But another thing that I wanted to add to your introduction is that you are dedicated to serving God by helping others and giving back, which is a very beautiful thing. So we're going to get into that as well, because I think that that needs to be highlighted. But how did you? So I did read your bio, obviously. So I am always fascinated by people that become nomads, because I think that that takes an incredible sense of freedom and detachment to what we all like really kind of think as a priority in our life. So can you tell us a little bit how you got to becoming that?
Yeah. So, first of all, I want to say I never had like this lifelong aspiration to do this. I was worked in a nonprofit youth sports organization for 30 years, loved the work I was doing. And then in early 2019, I took two solo trips, one to Dallas and Louisiana, and another one down to Orlando from Pennsylvania and back. And on those two trips, I felt such an incredible serenity. And my mom had done the same thing, similar. She'd taken a 1967 Plymouth Valiant and took the back seat out of it and turned it into a makeshift bed. And she just traveled throughout the country for several years. Back in the mid 80s. And on those two trips that I took, like it hit me, like there was this aha moment, like, wow, like I think I finally figured out why mom did what she did.
Yeah.
And I got back and I wrote like I hadn't written in years. I'd already published my first book. I was in the process of adding 10 new chapters to it, but it was a long, painful process, just finding the time to carve out and write. And when I sat down and, after those trips, there was just this new inspiration. And, it was almost as if then, God was speaking to me like, it's time for a new chapter. And it wasn't something I embraced at first. It took some internal battle because, again, I loved what I was doing. I loved the work I was doing. I loved the people I was working with. So it was a tough pill to swallow initially. But it came back to that writing and that inspiration. I'd always wanted to publish more books, but finding the time to do it was tough. So that's kind of what sold me, was the ability to get out on the road and use that inspiration and write more. So I then, ran the idea by my wife. She thought I'd completely lost my mind. And, I just would kind of nudge her every couple weeks or so. And she was going through some challenges professionally as well, where some doors weren't opening for her that, we were expecting to open. And, one day she came home from work, after another, disappointing conversation, and said, I'm in. Let's do it. So that was, middle of 2019. And then, we just put the plan into motion, and early 2020 we put the house on the market. We took the house off the market when COVID hit. Actually bought the RV in the heat of COVID, the day that Pennsylvania was issuing its shutdown orders. But we still felt this incredible peace about that decision, even though there was so much uncertainty in our personal lives and the world. And ended up putting the house back on the market. It sold, and in August of 2020, we hit the road, and we've been able to, become these nomadic volunteers. One of the first things we did in our first month of traveling is we went down to Sulphur, Louisiana, and volunteered at a church down there right after Hurricane Laura had hit.
Yeah.
And we also volunteered at a faith-based drug and alcohol facility, rehabilitation facility in Beaumont, Texas for a little bit. And then what really put us on this, nomad volunteer journey more than anything was we hooked up with an organization called A Year to Volunteer, which is a RV centric volunteer organization, and they'll take 16 couples, generally 16 RVs will come into a state park or a nonprofit organization, and we'll do a project for about 2 weeks. And it's anything from rebuilding trails to fences and tent pads to fishing piers and painting and landscaping, you name it, whatever they don't have staff for.
Yeah,
we can come in and do it. And being a part of that community has been so special for us, because the people we've met through those volunteer projects are people who have really become lifelong friends. And again, it's cool because now we can kind of, follow their nomadic travels the way they follow our nomadic travels. And, we get to connect with them. We're back in Pennsylvania right now, and a couple friends of ours are volunteers as well, originally from Alabama. Just a few weeks ago, they were in, Pennsylvania near where we're at. We got to get together with them for lunch or breakfast and just had a great time. And, that's the sort of stuff that you just can't put a price tag on, for sure.
no, and I'm just getting goosebumps over here listening to this. Like, how incredible of a life that is, and to do that with your significant other, and just to travel the country making a difference and meeting people that have that are aligned with what you believe in and what you're doing. Like, that is very powerful.
It is. And just a note on my significant other. So for 30 years, we were married and happily married. But funny thing about it is the amount of time that I put in with our organization, we didn't spend a whole lot of time together when we were living in a regular house, because I was literally working 80, 90 hours a week. We had a great relationship, but we always would joke that, our marriage is so great because we rarely see each other. So we did this really, seismic shift in going from a 3,500 square foot house on 2 acres of land where, we rarely spent a ton of time with each other, to now putting ourselves, in a just under 300 square foot RV where we're together, literally just about 24/7. And amazingly, we've survived it, and our marriage has actually become even stronger than when it was before. So we didn't have a strong marriage just because we didn't see each other the first almost 30 years.
Speak volumes of your relationship. I mean, I'm sure that was a huge adjustment at first, and if you are living kind of almost separate lives within your marriage, it's kind of hard to start living on top of each other day in and day out.
Yeah.
That can be a little challenging. So my late husband, we were inseparable because we ran our businesses together. And, it's now I'm getting remarried, and he works a lot. And so it's interesting, the different dynamics in both my relationships. So I can attest to both of those. So let's talk about your books. So you have authored 3 books. Do you want to share all 3 books with us, or just one, your more recent one? I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah. So real quickly, I'll talk about the first, 2, because it's the same book twice. So it's The Beauty of a Diamond Through the Eyes of a Coach. It was republished and released again in July of 2021 with the 10 new chapters. And that really chronicled my career as a coach and, working with kids. And I always took on the philosophy of, teaching life lessons through the game. And then my most recent book, which was just published this past May, is The Journey of My Mother's Son, Volume 1, Many Random Thoughts from the Road. And that's really just a chronicle, almost a journal per se, of, literally what it says, random thoughts from the first 6 months before we hit the road, up through a little over the first year that we were on the road. And, whether it was a hike I took or a sunset that we went and saw in the morning, in the evening, or a sunrise in the morning. Again, just those random thoughts of the spiritual growth that we've been able to experience on this trip, on this journey, and, reflections. And again, bringing alive my mother's legacy as well through that. So that's actually the first of God willing, what will be a 4-book series
Wow.
And hopefully the next one will be out next spring, and then kind of see where it goes. But I definitely have been able to, the inspiration that sent us on this journey of being able to write more has definitely delivered. Considering I republished the first book and published a completely new book in the first year and a half of us hitting the road.
That is very cool. So you guys have kids, right?
We do. We have 4 kids and 8 grandkids.
Oh wow, what a blessing.
Yes.
And so
yes.
how do your kids feel about you guys like being nomads and traveling all over?
When we first told them, we got some mixed reactions. From again, like, you guys are completely crazy to, wow, that's really cool. We had them all over for like a picnic. We told them, hey, we need to get everybody together. Of course, the week and a half from when we invite them all over to when they were there, we kept getting questions, like, what is this about? And we had to kind of keep it to the vest. And it was funny, by the time we had told them to the time they were leaving, where, even the ones who were like, I can't believe you guys are going to, abandon us, even though they're in their, late 30s and early 40s. They started picking out stuff in the house of what they wanted. They're like, well, when you guys sell everything, can I get that? So we figured, I guess they adapted okay. It took a couple hours, and they were okay just tagging the stuff that they wanted around the house.
Yeah.
Hey Dad, how you been? What's going on?
Well, not too much. Spring cleaning time.
Well, did you weed whack? Did you get the carpets cleaned? 'Cause I know Mom's all about that, so I want to make sure we're ready to go.
Well, yeah. I got the gutters cleaned. That's about it.
That's it? Well, when I said weed whack and all that and the carpet, I kind of meant like the MANSCAPED 4.0. It's a little more personal.
I understand, yeah.
Works awesome.
Have you tried this?
I have tried it and it works wonders. It really does. Yeah.
Okay. This is pretty cool. And see, it comes with an LED light, and I understand it's waterproof.
It is waterproof. It works well. I tried it. It's a good product. It's a great product. I've tried other ones, and they're just so noisy, and they don't cut very well.
Wow, that's really good. Like, where do we get this?
Well, you can get it at MANSCAPED.com, and while you're at MANSCAPED.com, you know that we got a code, so we get it cheaper.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of a discount can we get?
We can get it at label-free 20, and it gives you 20% off the product, and it gives us free shipping. And I've tried some of the other products there because they got these all new premier products. Like this here, it's a deodorant.
Now, is it for underarm or other places, or
I tried, but it's for the underarm.
Okay.
That's where it's at. And you could also get it at manscaped.com. Same code. We're using the code again. Label free 20. Label free 20%
off and free shipping.
Free shipping. I mean, how can you go wrong with that, right?
Wonderful.
What was that like, having to let go a lot of those material items? Because I would have such a hard time, especially my clothes. Like, I can't imagine. Like, how was that downsizing to fit into an RV?
It was actually a lot easier than I think either of us thought it would be. Because like you, I think it was like, man, what are we going to have to give up? But then once you started selling stuff off, it almost became liberating. Like, wow, we had all this crap, and what did we really have it for? Now what's nice is, we kind of have a rule in the RV of like one in, one out. So, if either of us buys a shirt or a sweatshirt or something, it's like, before something can come in the RV, something's got to go out, because we've got a limited amount of space. So it was much easier than I think either of us anticipated. And by the end, it was actually really liberating. And we've told our kids, we're like, what, we actually did you guys a huge favor, because this is all stuff that they would have had to sort out when we went away at that point. Yeah. And I even remember, like, after my mom passed away, and my mom was a minimalist before, minimalist was a thing. And she still had a lot of stuff in a tiny little 800 square foot house that she had lived in. And, I just remember, reflecting and having to go through that stuff. And as we were doing it, relaying to our kids, like, believe me, we're actually doing you guys a huge favor by taking care of this stuff now so that you don't have to.
So what are you and your wife's ultimate goal in like how you do you see yourself living this kind of lifestyle and for the rest of your time here? Or what is like I'm just curious what that looks like for you guys.
So right now we have no exit plan. It really is as long as we have our health
Yeah.
and we can continue to do it. I know some of our friends that are full-time RVers, they kind of have an exit plan. Like, part of their journey is figuring out where they do want to settle down at once they can't travel. Where we're kind of at the stage right now where we love the lifestyle, we love the freedom. And we're taking it one day at a time. And if it comes to a point where we're no longer physically able to do it, then we'll address it at that time. But if I had my druthers, I would go to sleep one night in our RV and not wake up.
Well, I think that's probably what's going to happen. You're going to move on to the next, doing what you love and serving as you've been serving. Why is it so important for you to serve God by helping in, giving back?
Again, I think that's a lesson that my mom taught me at a very young age. When I was a young boy, she was always very involved in our community. Always was volunteering with something. So, a product of me being her son was, being dragged along to whatever she was volunteering at.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, whether it was Meals on Wheels or volunteering at the Little League concession stand. If I didn't have a game, I was in there helping her. So I think that taught me at a very young age that that's what we do as humans. That servant leadership is really the way to go about life. And as I got older, it was just natural for me to become involved and to volunteer and to give back. And when we first left on this journey, we always wanted that to be a part of it, but we weren't sure exactly how to engage those opportunities. And the first two in Louisiana and Texas just kind of fell on our lap. And then since we've been involved with the Year to Volunteer, the beauty of that is like we just have to show up and do the work. Like we don't have to worry about the logistics and the planning and all that stuff. They take care of all that, and they're incredible human beings that are running that organization. So it's from a guy who was the organizer for many years,
Yeah.
to be able to just show up and give of my time and my efforts is a godsend in its own right. So I just think it comes down to the fact that we're really put on this earth to serve others, and I think the feeling you get when you do that, when you go into something giving, when you leave, you actually find out that you received more than you actually gave.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a big believer in volunteering and giving back. I think it's so important, and it's just not we get more from doing that for others than I think a lot of people realize. So I thank you for you and your wife and what you're doing. I think it's a beautiful thing, and more people need to learn by example and do the same thing. So do you have any goals in your travels? Like do you want to hit every state? Have you hit every state? Like what percentage of the US have you seen so far in your RV?
We have seen 39 states so far.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Our big goal, at least my big goal, I think I'd have to double check with my wife what her big goal is, but I want to get to Alaska in the summertime and just experience what that's like to be, walking around at 11 o'clock at night and it's still daylight. Like for whatever reason, that just fascinates me. So we're working around grandchildren's graduations as to when we can make that trip, because we definitely want to be there in June when it's the most daylight. So that's kind of looking right now as a 2024 target. But other than that, I mean, the only goal is to just, spread as much love and kindness as we can, and, meet more and more like-minded people. And I think, the other thing that we've learned on this journey is that even though our world is pretty much chaotic, there are tons of good people out there, and you really just have to take the time to sit down and have a conversation with them. And you're going to find out that you have so much more in common than you have, not in common with them. And that's, the people we've met, it's just been absolutely amazing how blessed we've been, just meeting some incredible people on this journey.
Yeah, I would agree that, there's good in everyone, and you just have to take the time to get to know them and find it. You have an awesome website. So it's more of like a blog style on your travels, right? So can you please share with everyone where they can find you, connect with you, find your books, and, support what you and your wife are doing?
Absolutely. So website is journeyofmymotherson.com or danclouser.com. They both go to the exact same spot, but if you don't want to type the whole thing out, just go danclouser.com and you're good to go. Links there to Amazon to get my books. If you want signed copies of my books, that's available on my website as well. All of my blogs are there. If anybody's out there looking for, to have me come and speak to their organization, information is there on the website as well. So really, once you get to the website, you can pretty much find anything you need to know about me and our journey there.
Awesome. You guys, I'm going to put all those links in the show notes. So if you resonated with Dan's journey and what him and his wife are doing, please don't hesitate to go buy a book, check out his website, and just support their overall goodness that they're putting out there into the universe, because we need more of it. This is the part of the show, Dan, where I like to ask. I actually have a ton more questions for you. So maybe when that next book comes out, we'll have you come back and we can get into it. Well, it'll be a part 2 of this conversation. But what are some last words of wisdom or advice you'd like to leave with the audience?
I think it just goes back to what I just said, is like, seek the good in people and you will find it. So, don't be afraid to walk up to someone who doesn't look like you, doesn't necessarily dress like you, doesn't talk to you, doesn't, listen to the same music as you, and have a conversation with them. And that's what I love about this podcast, the, label-free podcast, is like, we want to stick all these labels on everybody. But if we actually sit down, you're going to understand that most of our labels are the same. Deep down inside, most of those labels are the same. So that's what drew me to, really being excited about being on the Label-Free podcast.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that, label free is just for us to kind of connect with each other and honor who we are as individuals. And there's been so much polarizing and in our world today in the last couple of years, that it's just like, I think it's so important just to come together more and have good conversations, even if they're the difficult conversations, because that's where the growth can happen and hopefully, leave a good imprint on somebody that's listening. So, Dan, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I'm excited for your next book to come out. So keep us posted. We'll have you back and give everybody an update, and just love what you and your wife are doing.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.